We are counting down the 10 weirdest facts behind the 747's unmistakable hump. From engineering choices few passengers ever notice, to luxury lounges in the sky, and record-setting runs that redefined what a jumbo jet could be, this ranking uncovers how a practical freighter decision became one of aviation's most enduring icons. Which secret tops them all? Let's begin with number 10. The 747's famous hump wasn't born out of a quest for style. It started as a practical fix to a cargo problem that haunted Boeing and Pan Am in the 1960s. Both companies expected supersonic jets to steal the passenger spotlight, so they needed a backup plan. Make sure the 747 could earn its keep as a freighter. The solution was radical for its time. Boeing lifted the cockpit above the main deck, allowing the entire nose of the plane to swing open on a hinge. This design meant huge pallets and oversized cargo could roll straight in without squeezing past a cockpit in the way. The hump, now aviation's most recognizable silhouette, was really just the price of keeping the cockpit clear for nose loading. No one set out to create an icon, they just wanted a cargo door that worked. But that single decision changed the shape of jets forever. Raising the cockpit above the main deck did more than just clear the way for giant pallets. It solved a hidden headache lurking inside every jet: wiring. On a typical aircraft, vital cockpit cables and control lines run straight through the nose. But when you add a massive swinging cargo door, those wires face constant flexing and strain at every time the nose opens. Boeing engineers realized that putting the cockpit up top meant those bundles could be routed safely above the hinge line, far from the moving parts and away from the risk of pinched or broken connections. This move did not just make cargo loading easier, it quietly boosted reliability and made maintenance less of a nightmare. The hump's shape then was not just about freight, it was a smart way to keep the plane's brains safe from the muscle working below. Passengers stepping onto the first 747s found something that felt more like a private club than an airplane cabin. Instead of rows of seats, the upper deck was a cozy lounge tucked behind the cockpit with just 3 windows on each side. Pan Am's marketing leaned hard into that vibe, promising a sky-high escape where first-class travelers could sip drinks, chat, or simply stretch out above the clouds. The 3-window layout was not a mistake. It matched the original plan for an exclusive space, not a sea of seats. Airlines showed off the lounge as a symbol of luxury, a nod to the golden age of flying when comfort and style ruled the skies. For a brief moment, the 747 hump was not about packing in more passengers. It was about making the journey itself feel special, high above the main cabin bustle. By 1972, airlines were rethinking what that glamorous upper deck lounge was really worth. The answer came as a retrofit. Out went the sofas and cocktail tables. In came rows of seats, and with them, a jump from 3 tiny windows to 10 per side. Suddenly, the hump was no longer a private club for a handful of first-class regulars. It became a revenue engine, squeezed for every available seat. The timing was no accident. Jet fuel prices were climbing, and the 1973 oil crisis loomed just ahead. Airlines scrambled to offset soaring costs, and every empty square foot upstairs started to look like a missed paycheck. The upper deck's transformation from lounge to seating shows how quickly economic reality can sweep away even the most stylish ideas. The hump's next act would go even further, stretching its shape to fit more passengers and more airline ambitions. When airlines started demanding more seats but did not want to gamble on a brand new model, Boeing took a tape measure to the hump. The result was the 747-300 rolled out with a stretched upper deck that ran 7.11 meters longer than before, about 23 feet, the length of a city bus. This was not just a cosmetic tweak. The longer hump meant the upper deck could now hold up to 69 passengers, more than double the old limit of 32. The redesign was officially approved on March 1, 1983, and quickly became a favorite with airlines chasing higher revenue per flight. The stretched hump proved you could squeeze more out of the same airframe without reinventing the wheel, setting up the mix of 747 variants that would define the fleet for decades. Spotting a 747-400 at the airport does not always mean you are looking at the same airplane shape. The passenger version kept the long stretched hump from the 747-300, running almost a quarter of the way down the fuselage. The 747-400 freighter, built as a freighter from day one, reverted to the original shorter hump, leaving just enough space for the cockpit and crew. That shorter profile emphasizes cargo function over lounge space. Then there is the Boeing Converted Freighter, or BCF, where airlines took passenger 747-400s and turned them into cargo haulers. Those hybrids kept the long upper deck, creating a Frankenstein mix, a stretched hump on a full-time freighter. It is the only jet where the same model number can mean totally different silhouettes, all because the hump was designed to be modular from the start. On the ramp, the difference is hard to miss. In April 1966, Pan Am placed an order that would change the course of aviation, 25 Boeing 747s at $20 million apiece, a gamble worth $500 million in the middle of the jet age. This was not a cautious step. It was a moonshot, locking both airline and manufacturer into a project so big that Boeing had to build the world's largest factory just to assemble the planes. The commitment came years before a single 747 had ever flown, with Pan Am's Juan Trippe betting everything on making mass air travel a reality. The first finished 747, gleaming in Pan Am colors, touched down at New York's JFK Airport on December 13, 1969, after approving flight through Nassau. Cameras flashed and crowds gathered, sensing that this delivery was not just about a new airplane, it was the arrival of a new ERA, with the 747's hump leading the charge. Boeing's timeline for the first 747 was not just ambitious, it was breathless. The prototype rolled out of the Everett factory on September 30, 1968, barely 2 years after Pan Am signed its moonshot order. Just 4 months later, on February 9, 1969, the 747 lifted off on its maiden flight with test pilots Jack Waddell and Brian Weigel at the controls. Certification was not a drawn-out process either. By December 30, 1969, the FAA gave the green light for passenger service, capping off a 15-month sprint from rollout to approval. That left less than a month for Pan Am to prepare for the first paying passengers, who boarded on January 22, 1970, bound for London. In the world of jumbo jets, where projects often drag on for years, the launch of the 747 was a high-wire act that locked in every design gamble and made the hump a permanent part of aviation history. Boeing's gamble on the hump paid off in a way no one could have predicted in the late 1960s. While other four-engine giants faded away, the 747 kept rolling out of the factory for more than half a century. This final tally was 1,574 aircraft built, each one bearing that distinctive silhouette. On January 31, 2023, the last brand new 747 left the assembly line, capping a production run that stretched across 6 decades and 2 centuries. That longevity was not just luck. It was proof that the original cargo-first design, with its raised cockpit and hinged nose, gave the 747 a second life as a freighter long after its passenger heyday. Airlines, cargo haulers, and even NASA found new reasons to keep ordering the Queen of the Skies. The hump, born out of practical thinking, turned into a symbol that outlasted trends, rivals, and even the era it was built for. No other airplane silhouette says long haul like the 747's hump. Over 5 decades, that shape became a global icon, so recognizable that even a simple outline stands for intercontinental flight in posters, movies, and airport signs. The nickname Queen of the Skies was not just airline marketing. It was a nod to an aircraft that defined the jet age in the public imagination. The 747's fame stretched far beyond commercial runways. NASA picked the 747-100 as the shuttle carrier aircraft, strapping the space shuttle to its back for ferry flights across America, which proved that the hump's sturdy, elevated design could handle even a spaceship. From Hollywood blockbusters to the real-life drama of carrying astronauts' rides, the 747's hump became aviation's most powerful symbol. What began as a cargo solution now stands as a monument to human ambition and the dream of connecting the world. Across all 10 facts, one pattern stands out. Practicality shapes icons. The 747's hump was not designed for style, it was designed for function. That single engineering choice defined an era of aviation. The lesson? Aviation's most legendary shapes are born from necessity, not just imagination. Thanks for watching.